The Clippers last night, they stay alive against the Phoenix Suns. I believe it was 114-102 in game 5. They were down 3-1, Joe, and they notched a huge win on the road. Looked like Phoenix had that series in the bag. Now things potentially up for grabs a little bit more. So, Joe, first thing we got to ask, is there a way that the Clippers can legitimately battle back from 3-1 down here?
I mean, I don't see a possibility of it. The Suns are just too good of a team for it to happen. And, coming back from 3-1, I mean, even though the Nuggets did it all the time last year, I mean, it's so hard to do.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be difficult. I think it's possible, though. Ultimately, it comes down to Paul George. The man's going to have to play out of his mind like he did last night. Do I think he can do that for 2 more games in a row? I think he'll have 2 really good games if there are 2. But do I think he's going to be able to drop 40-plus in the next 2? No. So I definitely think the Suns are going to win this series. I'm not so sure they close this out in LA, though. It's not like the Staples Center is a fortress for Clippers fans or the Clippers players. But the Clippers have had decent success. I mean, they split in this series at home. Book has been up and down this series, still dealing with the effects of that broken nose. Very good last night. Chris Paul playing decently. They just need the role guys to step up. In LA, maybe that's difficult. I'm with you, Joe. I lean definitely LA, but I lean Phoenix, but you never know. And I think that I'm going to give them a shot.
Terrible. Horrible take.
You don't have faith in Pandemic P?
I will never have faith in Pandemic P until he actually does it.
Well, he's an all-NBA player, and he dropped 40 points last night and had double-digit assists.
I only count in all-NBA first team, okay?
Oh, okay. So when Doncic has a season where he's injured and doesn't get it, are you going to change your stance on that?
If he's injured, then I doubt he's going to get third team.
Yeah, LeBron got second.
Yeah, but that's because, people are scared to go against LeBron.
Man, well, Doncic will be there one day. Anyway, Joe, the next question I have to ask, say what you say is impossible does happen, and the LA Clippers come back from 3-1 down against the Phoenix Suns team that I believe is perfectly constructed for these playoffs. I want to know, Joe, do we retire the Pandemic P meme if they come back from 3-1 down, especially considering the way Paul George has played pretty much throughout this series and especially last night?
No, and here's why. This isn't even like sports discussion right now. This is the life cycle of a meme. You got, the event where the meme is born, and that is last year's playoffs with Paul George being terrible.
And let's be honest, there were events prefacing this. He had his problems after he left Indiana in Oklahoma City as well, but they got masqueraded because Russ was also crap.
Were we in a pandemic before that though?
No, we weren't.
Pandemic P because we were in a pandemic. That's what made it clever.
Fair enough.
So you got where it started, and then it starts to die out. That's the NBA offseason right there, And then it comes back alive in the new playoffs for this year. And it starts to look like, oh, wait, this might not be true. But here's
it's not true, largely, at least this year.
Here's the next step of a meme. It rebounces once something like that event, the 2020 NBA playoffs, happens again.
Okay.
So when Paul George sucks, inevitably, I'm going to say inevitably right now, then it's going to come back to life. So that's why he will never get rid of the Pandemic P moniker. And if he wins a ring this year without Kawhi Leonard, and then he's trash again next playoff season, then it's coming back. That's just the way a meme works.
I don't care how a meme works. That's my stance. If Paul George comes back from 3-1 down against the Phoenix Suns, anyone who says that meme doesn't understand basketball. And that's the stance. That's the hill I will literally die on, because here's the thing, right? You can say it this playoffs because, right, he missed the free throws in game 2, and he had that first half against Dallas, and he's had games where he's been off. I'm not here to pretend that he's been perfect. But Paul George has had an overall very good postseason. He was an all-NBA player this year. And if he comes back from 3-1 down against the Phoenix Suns, a team that everybody thinks is the finals favorite, at least right now, I think that anybody who says that meme is hung up on Twitter. And Joe, look, I find it as funny as the next guy. I said this last night, and if in Game 6 he pops out with a 1-for-9 from 3 performance, I'll probably tweet it. But if he manages to come back and lead this team to the NBA Finals without Kawhi Leonard against arguably the best team remaining in the playoffs and maybe the best team in the NBA at this current moment, that meme needs to go down the garbage disposal. It needs to be just removed from our collective consciousness.
No, that's not how memes work. Okay.
Unfortunately, not. NBA Twitter will always be undefeated.
Come on. Also, you got just NBA memes. LeFraud is never going to go away,
which is factually incorrect. But yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Or anything.
What your opinion is on this? It's just not going to go away.
Anything with Jor, where it's like Jor fraud or whatever. Yeah,
that's not going to go away.
That's never going to go away.
Crybaby, that's never going to go away. But that one's more factually accurate still. So.
Yeah, I mean, LaFlop and LaCrybaby actually have backing.
That's just the NBA meme. These titles never go away. They stay on a person forever. It doesn't matter how good they are. It doesn't matter, if they win a ring or something. It's just gonna stick with them. That's because they sucked at one point in their career.
I mean, I don't think Paul George ever sucks, but in the playoffs last year he did.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right. We're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one. I'm somebody who likes memes rooted in fact. I don't find dumb memes funny. But right now it's funny because ultimately those two break free throws.
You call me a boomer all the time, and you just said that. You can no longer call me a boomer.
I absolutely can, country man. Anyway, we're gonna switch gears on this series. You don't like Drake. You're a boomer.
Okay. If the two watchers, if you don't like Drake, please comment and back me up on this.
If you don't like Drake, you're a fraud of a human
He's
being.
The most overrated artist there is.
He's the best of all, the GOAT.
He's not.
The GOAT. He has never made a bad song.
God's Plan is not that good.
God's Plan is one of the best songs ever created, Joe.
It doesn't make sense.
God's Plan, bro. Okay, and you listed at country songs and they literally say the same 3 things. And
they're all about love, drinking, and horses. I mean, what more do you need?
I need anything other than that. Anyway, to be fair, you do have a point on that. Normally I'm all for the memes, but that meme annoys me because he's a good basketball player. And I want to see him succeed. Paul George hasn't done me wrong ever. Paul George hasn't been, I mean, he can be a little arrogant sometimes, but overall he's a good dude. I don't have much of a problem with Paul George. But segueing, Joe, to the other side of this series now. What can Phoenix change and adjust to just shut things down in Game 6 and put an end to all this conversation?
Well, I think Chris Paul needs to do better than he's been after the injury. I haven't been as impressed as I usually am with him. Yeah,
and also, right, he's still getting his legs under him, but he has played now 3 games? He's played 3 games since he got back from COVID. And he was vaxxed.
Yeah, he was vaxxed. That's important. I just gotta say CP3 needs to step up a little bit more.
Yeah, for me it's the role players. I thought Crowder last night was MIA. Mikal Bridges, who's usually good for 10 to 15 in the playoffs and a couple threes, I think he had 6. I did not think he was good. Also, Boogie Cousins eviscerated them in the limited minutes he got. That's something that I was frustrated by. DeAndre Ayton, phenomenal player. No doubt in these playoffs especially, he's had his way in every series except for this one. And here's the thing that I had an issue with. There were so many times when the Clippers went small. I was watching this game with Swan, and I literally said this to him. I'm like, why is Ayton not just putting his butt into Marcus, or I think it's Marcus Morris, and catching the ball and bullying him? And he did not catch it deep enough in the post. He did not try to establish inside position. He didn't try to seal. I understand that in the pick and roll, it was defended very well, and I got to give props to Boogie for that in those minutes because he didn't get completely run off the court. But I genuinely think that in those minutes where the Clippers were small, which is most of the game, DeAndre Ayton needs to be more assertive and demand the ball closer to the block. And I think that that's the biggest thing. When their offense was slumping late in the fourth, they didn't have a guy to pace them to get a bucket outside of Booker. And You need that option in Ayton. Wasn't in foul trouble. There was no excuse for him last night.